Hello, I'm John Bruce. I'm the CEO of a company called Inrupt, which I founded with Sir Tim Berners-Lee, the inventor of the web. I'm sure most of you will know him. And we founded a company called Inrupt. And in the next 20 minutes, I get a chance to talk to you, and I'm delighted to be here to talk to you. Thank you, Data, for the invitation. Because this is a conference that's really important to us. This is a conference about data sovereignty and the decentralized web and privacy rights and so on. And that's part of our mission. So I'm thrilled to have 20 minutes to talk to you. And at the end, I can leave you some contact details. So if you have any questions that we can't get to in this discussion, then I'll be happy to answer them after today. On the next slide, you'll see a quote from Sir Tim, because the reason we founded the company was that he'd been working for some years on a project at MIT called Solid. And Solid was a reorientation of the web that corrected a lot of its problems of today. And I'm thrilled that since we started the company, we've been able to begin to mobilize a world around Solid. And I'm very excited about the opportunities for us with folks like you in Korea. And on the next slide, we talk about what Solid is. It's a data infrastructure platform for everybody on the web, for us all as citizens of countries, as consumers of corporations, products and services, for corporations who want to create new, otherwise impossible ways to engage with the consumers. And as you'll see when I talk about some of the projects we're working on, it truly is a fabulous platform to enable governments to service their citizens in a much more efficient and productive way. Some of you may ask, what is Solid? So on the next slide, you'll see a very simple overview of what Solid means. The essence of Solid is a thing called a pod, a personal online data store. It's given to us all as individuals. Actually, we may have more than one pod. And this pod is a data area that we control. We put our data in it. Organizations can infuse it with data as they experience a relationship with us. IoT devices can infuse our pod with data from cameras and home devices and so on. And what the pod does is it stores all of our data. It allows us to control that data. And as importantly, it decouples data from applications. Because one of the things that Solid remediates, one of the things that Solid fixes, is the fact that the way we operate on the web today, data and applications are interwoven. So you as an individual, when you use an application on the web, the data pertinent to that experience goes away to the vendor. And they have a very small view of you. When you interact with another application, again, the data pertinent to that experience goes to that organization. And they now also have a very small view of you. What Solid does is it brings a user centricity to it. It brings that data together in a holistic way. And the more data that goes into a pod, the more extensible they are. Because data is stored in a pod in a particular way, it means that organizations, when they build applications, don't need to worry about various APIs and the like. They can expect the data, if you allow it, if you as an individual allow it, they can expect the data to be available and to be accessible in a particular way. It means that the relationship between organizations and users now is much more balanced. Actually, and organizations get to participate in a trusting relationship with their consumers or their citizens. And all this is done to existing web specs. This is all open source and principally all agreed standards and specifications. There's no new technology to roll out here. If consumers or citizens can use a browser, they can use Solid. It gives users complete control over their data. It gives them privacy. It gives organizations access to data that they otherwise would not be able to see or access. And it means developers can write applications without worrying about how the data is formatted or the API to access the data. It truly is a transformative platform. So what is the benefit in this? Well, the next slide, I think, will show you how this brings a beneficent benefit, a way where individuals, organizations, and developers all agree this is the way the web should work. I get control over my data. I get to experience things on the web that are impossible today. Organizations can create new ways to engage with me without taking my data away. And developers can write applications with one API and expect to have access to a broad swath of data, which truly allows them to create innovative apps. It is a fabulous meeting, if you will, of all of these particular interests, and it unlocks fabulous opportunities for growth and innovation. So on the next slide, you'll see, so what does Inrupt do? Solid is an open source specification. And as you'll see here on the next slide, we as Inrupt are mobilizing a global open ecosystem. We're a company, so we have resources. There's maybe 60 people now in Inrupt scattered around the world. We're working with governments, and I'll talk about some of those governments in the next slide. We're working with corporations, developers, consumers, and citizens. And these are some examples of the projects underway. In Belgium, the Flanders government has said every citizen will now be given a pod, and it will be the way all government services are delivered to the citizen. The BBC, it's a TV broadcaster, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of, out of the UK. The BBC have created new applications to provide their consumers with new experiences that are impossible without a pod. The National Health Service in England has created new ways to engage with patients using pods. And Slovakia, they've undertaken a project to give citizens access to digital data about themselves. And I'm thrilled to share that we're also now part of an EU project explicitly around, I think, something that should be of interest to you all as constituents, which is a MyData workshop. Because as you'll see on the next slide, I think that the relationship between Solid and MyData is a truly complementary one. It takes the opportunity, as you all know, MyData, it takes the opportunity for MyData principles to be delivered with a platform. The platform is Solid, to be delivered with a technology platform that supports all of the MyData principles. And with Inrupt, as an agent, as a company, to help facilitate this, it means that we can bring projects to market in countries, and we are already with various countries, with corporations, and with lots of corporations are mobilizing around projects. It's just, unfortunately, I can't share too much of that because of the non-disclosure agreements that exist. These are highly capable organizations with many millions of users, and they're hesitant to share too publicly until such time as they feel they've delivered the project successfully. We support the open source community, and that's a very vibrant community of open source developers who are building applications, creating startups, and very particularly with you all in mind. Not only are we working on the MyData project with MyData and with the EU, but also intending to work in countries. So I'm thrilled that we're looking for partners. We have a relationship with a company in Korea called Saka that I'm very excited about. We're expanding globally. We're very interested in talking to folks around the world who want to deliver projects using Solid, delivered with Inrupt's help, using an enterprise. What we have done, I will add, is we built an enterprise-grade version of Solid. We built it so that organizations can deploy at massive scale, and we know this for a fact because we're doing it already in Belgium, massively at scale, very securely, very safely. Operationally, it will scale at a massive scale. So why am I able to say that with confidence? Well, on the next slide, you'll see that I'm thrilled to be working in the company not only of Sir Tim Berners-Lee, who is the founder and inventor of the web, he also is the creator of Solid. We think it's a foundational technology for Web 3.0. And very importantly in the mix, Bruce Schneier. Bruce Schneier, I presume some of you will have already heard of Bruce Schneier. He's one of the top cybersecurity individuals in the world. And Bruce is the chief of our security architecture. So Bruce sees to it that the way we've architected Inrupt's implementation and the way we operate it is done with the highest quality of security we can make available. So that's why I say with confidence, and I'm thrilled to be working with partners who've helped us build version 2 of our product. We've been building it now for 4 years, and it's done in conjunction with these organizations and others that I can't share with you, unfortunately, but others around the world to deliver a very safe experience for Solid so that corporations can create new ways of doing business. Countries can service their citizens in a much more efficient way. And we as all individuals get sovereignty over our own data. We enjoy the benefits of a decentralized web, not constrained by the limits of it today. We anticipate a hugely much more vibrant web. The web that Sir Tim originally imagined, the web that we can all have if we work together. So on my last slide, I would just say that if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Here on this last slide, you'll see that there's an email address that you can send information. If you don't get the chance to pose your question now, there is an email address you can send your questions to. We'd be happy to answer them. And we do have people in Asia. We had a team in Korea 2 weeks ago. Thrilled to meet with some of you folks in country. So please let us know what we can do to help. We are very much here to help. There's a whole measure of opportunity ahead of us. And I'm particularly, again, as I said, thank you to K-Data. I'm particularly delighted to be talking to you as folks with obviously an inclination based on your MyData appetite, with an inclination to deliver a world where Solid and MyData together to make a significant difference for citizens and consumers. And thank you for the time. I'm happy to take questions. I think we had some questions. Maybe I can speak to those. Well, one of the questions I see here is, how does Inrupt engage with organizations when they set off to launch Solid projects? Actually, that's a good question. Generally, though it varies based on the application and the organization, most organizations start with a pilot, and the pilot is generally focused on the first piece of value that the organization wants to deliver. Not the ultimate state, but the first state. The first state to deliver an experience for consumers or citizens, which clearly is better than the current experience, and sets them off to a different trajectory where lots of opportunity open up ahead of them. And so we have a standard process where we go through a discovery exercise, we educate the organization, we help them build an application to pilots, and of course, we work very much with partners like SACAC to actually deliver this. And we'd be thrilled to talk to anybody who wants to experience a solid pilot. Another question I see here, for solid ecosystems to be successful, what needs to be considered? That's a really good question, because as you know, with MyData, there's a lot to all of this than just technology. There's policy and principles, there's technology, but then there's legal and regulatory issues to be understood. There are other issues to do with economics of the ecosystem. What is the role of the various actors in the ecosystem, and what motivates them to do these actions? And they're usually commercial in nature or intended to add value in nature. And then I guess you'd say at the governmental level, certainly in Europe this is true, there needs to be government support. There needs to be a government-issued statement of support. So in Flanders, they've issued what they call a decree. And the decree says this is how we intend to do things. And if you are an organization, a corporation who wants to engage in this mission to change the economic landscape of Flanders, then you can apply, and by virtue of approval, you too can access these citizens, and you too can have access to these citizens and their government data. Not all of their government data, but some of their government data. So it's a whole array of capability that we at Inrupt are learning around the world, actually, and we see part of our role is to bring these various educational experiences from around the world to every project. Our job is on a global basis to bring the best as we experience it or from around the world to every project we work on. And then another question I see here, how do we see Korea compared to the rest of our markets? I think that's another great question. I personally consider Korea a very sophisticated market, actually, particularly when it comes to policy frameworks and the like. I think you set a great example to other countries who don't have your initiatives. However, I at the same time do believe that what it needs now is the right technology designed in an open way that conforms to all the existing web specifications to deliver against the promise of what you've designed. So all the hard work and all the design that you put into the policy and the frameworks, now this is I see solid as a foundational technology to build that against that. And we're experiencing that in other countries of the world, not all countries, but other countries of the world do similarly see opportunity here to do the right thing by their citizens and consumers. And it's those insights, I think, that we bring from different regions that we'd love to deliver to Korea and help you in your mission to make a better life for everybody economically and socially. So we stand ready to help. Thank you.